Hello, excuse me. Hello, Jill and Autumn, and potentially anyone else in the future watching this. Um, so the question put out to me was um, just an overview of Kanban, Kanban, Kanban as a process, and maybe some time and task management skills and how to do that. So I'm going to recommend, at least for this tutorial, Trello. Individually, I think you guys can both. So speaking to Jill and Autumn individually, you can both log in and sign up for your own Trello account. And then once you've done that in Teams, you can create a team and then kind of invite each other to that team, and then you can have your Trello boards be team boards. But Trello, I think, is a digital tool. I think that's really going to make sense. They have a good online tool, and then they also have a good app companion that's all synced, and so I think that's probably good. So we're going to use this to talk through Kanban. So right now I'm going to create a new board. And so you can see this is ways to customize your boards. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to call this Jill and Autumn's projects. And then you can see here, there's no team is selected because I don't belong to any teams. But if you guys create a team, you could then select that team that you've created. Um, adjust the privacy settings of this board specifically, and then these are kind of your background images. So I'm just going to stick with blue for now, and then create board. So here's your Trello board. So think of this as like a giant whiteboard, and then we're going to start putting stuff on it. And so for the process of Kanban, so they're going to give you these columns, and so they're called lists. And so we're going to need to set up at a minimum probably 3 or 4 lists, but you can change this as it makes sense to you. But I'll just go through kind of the basics. So my first list I'm going to call backlog. So backlog is a developer term, and it's basically any task. So something that needs done as a task. Any task gets put in the backlog, and so backlog is basically just a collection of all the tasks. So if you think about, you could do a Kanban board for anything. If you did a Kanban board for cleaning your house to get ready for company to come over, you would just say backlog, and then on post-it notes, you would write down every single task that needs to happen. So grocery shopping, vacuuming, dusting, um, you know, buying picture frames, whatever, all your tasks are. And it doesn't matter, they just all go in that backlog task. So you can call it backlog, you can call it up for grabs, you could call it all the shit, just whatever you want. But so backlog is the developer term. So you're going to add list. And then your next list, uh, you can do, so this depends here. So I'm gonna do kind of some basic lists, and then we'll add some ones that I personally think are helpful. But so we're gonna do in progress. Um, and then your last list, we're gonna do complete. So these are kind of the three main lists that you need: backlog, in progress, and complete. But I've found to add some other steps to this has been helpful. And so um, I like to make a list in between backlog and in progress. That is like on deck, and then another list that's like in review. And so you can make the lists, and then you can also just drag them. And so backlog on deck, I want to land right here before in progress, and then I want in review to be before complete. I want complete to be my final list. So now I have this flow. So I have backlog, on deck, in progress, in review, and then complete. So now the idea is you're going to add a card, and so your card is going to represent one task. And it's really important that you only create individual cards for every individual task, or else this kind of doesn't work. Um, And then we're going to kind of move a task through these columns. And so, for example, so backlog, add a card. So I'm going to say my first card is record Kanban tutorial video. Add card. And my next card is going to be send video to Jill and Autumn. And so these are your tasks, right? And so again, so backlog is a collection of all the tasks that you would have. Um, and so we're going to cover two things. So the first thing is once you have your tasks in here, um, now you can start to moving them. So if I know, so I need to record the Kanban tutorial video before I can send the video. It needs to be recorded first. That's going to be my priority. And so the order that you have these cards in the list should match the kind of order of priority. So right now I'm going to say the Kanban tutorial needs to be on deck. I need to do that next. Currently I have nothing in progress, and then backlog senders. So then you're going to have all these other tasks, task 2, task 3, so on and so forth. And so now, like, okay, I'm ready to record the video, so I'm going to move that to in progress. And then I can say on deck is sending the video. And so you're going to kind of move, that's how, so basically the cards are moving, flowing from left to right. So the in progress bar is really, this list is really important, because in progress you really need to have a tight cap on it. And so let's say in progress, so let's say, so if there's only Jill and Autumn here on this team, um, the in progress needs to have like a limit to it. So 2 per person. And the idea is that, like, if you just start dragging all these things in progress, like, yeah, I'm doing them eventually, they don't get done. But if you have a limit of 2, and so, like, let's say I'm going to move this task into in progress too. So if I'm working on recording the tutorial video and then also this task, after I finish recording the video, I'm going to move it over to review. And then once it's like, yeah, this video looks great, it's complete, cool. And then I'm going to go over here and say, I'm not ready to do that one yet. Task 2, I'll move it there. If I start to move task 2 into complete, and then, oh, sorry, move my window. And then task 3 in progress, and then also into complete. This is starting to tell me that there's a blocker happening for this task, because this has been in my in progress bar, but I have only moved tasks around it. I have not touched it. And so usually that means that this task is either waiting on something else, or it's too big, it's too overwhelming. And so if this task is, publish a book, like that's way too big of a task. And so this might need to move back into the backlog, and then we might need to break this down into other tasks, um, smaller tasks. Um, and so anyways, I'm going to move these back just for keep our board orderly. Um, So in progress, comment video. But yeah, so the limit of 2 per person is important because it actually kind of focuses you on, like, what actually are you working on specifically, and and you can move things in and out, but it's important to have only 2 in progress. And so that's also helpful to say, so if I have, so let's say just for example, if I have these tasks in progress, and Autumn, let's say you come to me and say, "Oh, task 3, this thing that we need to do has to happen today. It has to go out today. Can you get this done?" Then it allows you to have a conversation to say, "Sure, I can move. I can basically move this in priority up here, but now one of these has to basically get removed." And so the thing that I was working on, I now can't anymore. And so it gets moved back to on deck. And so if you want this out the door today, task 3 out the door today, um, then it has to basically bump something else backwards to where it's paused. And again, it's a way. That's why this limit is really important, and it's really important to be like realistic about this limit, because like this is where things get in kind of regular world get slipped up, because in your head you're like, oh, I can do 15 things at once, and the reality is you can't. Um, and so this is where things get kind of slippery. Um, and so then obviously, so, you know, taking our task through. So I've taken my task, I've completed it. Let's say I need Jill to review it and say it looks good. She reviews it and says, nope, I have a whole bunch of edits. This is terrible. And then it's like, okay. And so I can either take this all the way back here and break her edits into specific tasks. So I need to change the page formatting. I need to do this. I need to do that. And then move those all the way through. Or essentially it's like, I'm just going to, it needs to, did not pass the review stage. So it's going to go back to on deck, and then basically it's like once I finish these two things, it'll get back into the flow again, and so that eventually, things things will get moved, it'll get back in, and then Jill says, "Yeah, this looks great," and then it's like, "Cool, complete." And so the game is like you want all your backlog things, basically move everything from this side to this side. Um, so that's the basic principle. That's the basic setup of Kanban. So these cards are cool because they're pretty robust, and so you can just put a title so you know at a glance what this is. And so it can be, if it's like this, send video to Jill and Autumn. Cool, that's fine. But if in order to send video, if I need to do other things inside of that. Um, you can click the card and it opens up. So then in this view, this is where it gets a little more complex. So again, this is kind of make sure that it plays to your kind of skill and complexity set and like what makes sense for you. But in this card, I can add a member to this. And so basically, like if I'm managing the Trello board and I say, okay, Jill needs to do something, and I just remembered. And so let's say um, approve video, and because that's a task. And so it's like approve video, so members. And so I'm going to say Jill. And so I don't have any team members in here, but if we're on the same team, Jill would pop up and basically it would assign her. So, like, example, I'll assign myself this. It's going to assign her this card. And then in the description, you can say specifically, this is what the video is for. Remember, it can only be 30 seconds long. We also need to get it out by Friday. Um, and you can attach things. So you can attach the video. I'm going to attach the video to this card. I'm going to attach the image that needs approved. You can add a due date. This has to get done by this day. You can also add a checklist. And so the checklist, title the checklist, and then you can add an item. And so subtask 1, subtask 2. And so with these, again, I would make sure that you're keeping your tasks as individual cards as much as possible. And so this checklist, I think maybe only really works like, again, if you need if there's something that's a blocker. And so let's say before Jill can approve this video, Autumn needs to review first. And so that's a checklist. So let's say Autumn says, yeah, it looks good. We can check that. And now we're 100% with our checklist. And then now it can kind of move on. So you can add like a cover image, a label. So you can basically give it a color. So if you're working on projects, so let's say all of your video projects are green. So we're going to, make sure it has a green label. Cool. You can create new labels and name them and everything. And then it also kind of keeps track of what's been happening on this card. So I added this and then I completed it. So it's just kind of giving you a running history of what's happening. And so I think, so you can share it, you can archive it, things like that. But largely, so that's cards. If you zoom in, again, I would try to keep things at this level as much as possible. Task wise, I would try to keep tasks at this level. But you can see now I have the green marker on here. I've completed my checklist, my one of one, so it's ready to go. Approve video. I'm assigned to this, and so I can say, cool, I'm going to add it to in progress. So if this is our teams board, this in progress two per person, might have, you know, it might have that. So it might have like the ones are Jill's tasks and the twos are Autumn's tasks, and then these are my tasks. So this might have more than two items, but the idea is like you can only have two per person in here. And so then again, it's in review. So everything looks good. It's in review. And now we're moving it to complete. So yeah, so I think that's the basics. Let me know if you have any help or need any questions. Need any questions? Need any questions? Oh gosh, oh, man, This video needs to stop clearly. One, if you have any questions, let me know. If you need any help, let me know. And then the other, just as far as time management goes, again, this might be too in the weeds, but another tool that I've used before is this toggle. Um, and so toggle is just a time tracker tool. And so basically it's like you log in, and so right now it's like I've logged nothing for this week, but you can say, what are you working on? And so I'm going to say record video for Jill and Autumn. And then I'm going to say, cool, I'm doing that right now. And so this will just keep a running timer in the background while I'm working on this. And so I can go do other things, so I'm going to go back to, not trailers, I was going to say Trello. Go back to Trello, you know, basically mess around with all my stuff inside Trello. So here we go. We're back in our project. So I'm going to, do this video. And then whenever this is done, you can hit stop, and it adds today. This is what happened. And then you can also change it if you're like, oh, I forgot to hit stop, and it recorded for 7 hours. You can go in here and change it, or you can add time too. So let's say, oh, I forgot to start recording. And so today I'm going to start at 8:15 p.m. a.m. 8:15 to noon is when I did this. Cool. And so now it's adjusted. So now 4 hours you've worked on this. And then as you start to add other items, item 2, you can add another one. You can start to add a project name. So let's say item 2 is I don't know, personal stuff. Oh, sorry, create new project, personal stuff, cool. And then let's say this is, we're going to add a new project. We're going to say Jill is paying me for this. So we're going to add this project. So now you have a Jill's paying me for this project and personal stuff project. And then as you're, let's say if I, if I go back to do a new task for Jill, and so like send Jill hilarious gifts. And so let's say, I'm going to say that I worked, today. I've been doing that since 1 a.m. Clearly I'm fudging the books and should not be paid. And I'm going to make sure that that's on her project. So now you can see it's starting to do this bar right here. And it's showing you basically percentage, how much of your day is spent on Jill's paying me for this versus personal stuff. And that seems like the right percentage for all the stuff I'm getting paid for. But yeah, and so anyways, this is just, again, this is more to kind of help track time. And so that way, when you're kind of in here and you are saying, okay, I need to record the Kanban tutorial video, if Jill's like how long do you estimate that taking? Do you need 1 day? Do you need a whole month? Like, what does that mean? If you have similar projects or tasks that you've done in the past, you can say, oh, let me check. It took me 11 hours. And so I'm guessing about the same. And like, oh, okay. And so those are just some tools. Thanks for hanging in there with me. This has been a long tutorial.